thousands, in the millions, and we will be. Because it starts right here.
Guilty.
Welcome to Naptown People's Radio. I'm your host, Danny Abdullah, here with my comrade and co-host,
Derek Ford.
We're here to guide you through the pressing issues facing Indianapolis from the perspective of our people, not our oppressors. And as organizers involved in these issues, we're not just talking about the news, we're making it happen. So today we're going to be joined by Lucas Lee, who is from About Face, which is a veteran and an anti-war organization. He is also a volunteer with the Indie Liberation Center and a National Guardsman. So Lucas is going to be joining us today to talk about a new initiative to resist Trump's racist and anti-immigrant attacks amongst those of us who are strategically placed to do so, which is like a nice little teaser for that. So you definitely have to stay tuned to listen. But before we get into that, we're going to get into Naptown Breakdown. So what is happening this week in Naptown, Derek?
Well, this October 22nd was the first annual celebration of Indiana's Day of Love. It took place 50 years after the ceremony dedicating Robert Indiana's love sculpture at Newfields, one that many residents and tourists gravitate towards for selfies and memories. The sculpture was first produced in Connecticut in 1970 before settling into the Indianapolis Museum of Art and then Newfields in 1975. Now, these symbolic acts can be quite important. My wife, who identifies as disabled and chronically ill, submitted a proclamation request in 2021 to Governor Holcomb to increase awareness about osteogenesis imperfecta, which affects about 50,000 U.S. citizens, resulting in collagen issues impacting bones, organs, tissues, connective tissues, and more. So, every May 1st through 8th is OI Awareness Week. The problem is that out of all possible people, they chose Mayor Joe Hogsett, who has been embroiled in one sexual assault scandal after another and has in each instance worked to silence the victims and let the predators continue profiting. It's brazen, disrespectful, and arrogant. It's a display of male supremacy as if we can't touch him. Just like how many other people could have done it? The first person who comes to my mind is my colleague, Dr. Jen Adams. She recently wrote a lovely book, An Autoethnography of Relationship Through Time, A Perfect Moon. And she found hundreds of love letters between a couple in the 1930s in her attic. And so she was like sort of going through them and, looking and examining this young couple's evolution in love in the 1930s as they went through the Jazz Age, Great Depression, right? So not only is that more appropriate, but it's far smarter than anything Hogsett could say about the topic. So we say follow the lead of Irvington, right, who banned Hogsett from attending their Halloween celebration this past weekend. He's not even welcome in parts of the city that he supposedly governs, right? So shout out to Irvington. If you recall, in the last episode, we talked about the record-breaking city budget for the year. And each city county councilor received $1 million to use at their discretion on a park or a road project. This is for this year's budget. On October 27th, Peter Blanchard released findings in Mirror Indy indicating that several councilors were using part of those funds to improve city streets. That's great news, right? We've all been victims of potholes and,
Playing Mario Kart out here.
Right, for real. But here's the catch. They're only for the streets in front of their homes. So Michael Paul Hart of Warren Township, who we're with when it comes to keeping Google out of Indy, is using his portion to repave his Forest Creek neighborhood. He played dumb, or I guess was playing, maybe he just was dumb, when asked about it, although he acknowledged that the constituents he hears from most are from his wealthy neighbors. Now, there are exceptions, right? So Carlos Perkins from the Northwest Side is dedicating his portion to resurfacing the lots by Bethel Cathedral AME Church, where he preaches every Sunday, right? But it's not a conflict of interest because the neighborhood's been asking for that for a long time. And, the church is not just like his place of business. In fact, it's like that's the last thing it is. It's really a community gathering space. And so it just sort of speaks to the ongoing corruption within the city county council. And then finally, I want to turn to ICE again, because the mass resistance of the people of Chicago, and this is not just recently, but, years in the making, ICE has been forced to fly detainees out of Gary, Indiana for several years. But a new investigation reveals they're using our airport in Indianapolis to do so. So not only do the victims have no due process, but the public has no right to any information. So as Mirror Indy reported, about 4 dozen ICE flights moved through the airport since early July. Apparently, they're using our runway 3 times a week, although they're purposefully tucked away from the public eye. Surprisingly, ICE didn't respond to any inquiries, but reporters saw ICE agents forcing handcuffed people onto flights to Missouri. They cite an immigration researcher as saying the scale of this operation is absolutely unprecedented. Meanwhile, the sheriff continues to house immigrant detainees at the local jail, and we're going to be hearing more about this and how people are already organizing to fight back later when we're joined by Lucas Lee. But I'll leave it there for now.
Hopefully anyone who's listening to this is not surprised about city county councilors using our money to their benefit. Well, you know what? That's not fair. If you are surprised, I'm so sorry that this is the way that you had to find out that city county councilors are trash.
Mine's a few. 1. I don't know.
Okay. Minus one. -1. Okay. Or maybe more than 1. I don't know. But probably not. Man, just and again, we are literally, I made the joke of Mario Kart, but that's what it feels like sometimes, right? It's which potholes to dodge in your area. You go to a different part of the city and you're like, damn, okay, there goes my alignment, there goes my tire, whatever. But sure, fix the roads in front of your house. That's totally fine.
I was driving to and from the Justice Center last year with Leon Benson, and we got a flat, And last year, I got 4 flat tires throughout the year. Jeez. That's $1,000, And you can't do anything about it. They're not going to pay you for that.
No, they're not. They're not. They might say they will, but they're not actually going to do anything about it. And just the irony of Love Day, and women are being sexually assaulted in the Hogshead administration. It's being covered up, and you're kidnapping people from their homes and then deporting them. But sure, let's have a holiday to celebrate love. Also, that concept for that book by your coworker is amazing. Your colleague, that's amazing. That sounds beautiful.
Yeah, we should have her on here.
Yeah, actually, I would love to talk about that with her. That's amazing. That's beautiful. But just anybody else.
Yeah, really.
Anybody else.
Anybody else. Just pick somebody off the street. They're going to be better.
Yeah. Anybody else. And yeah, shout out to Irvington for sure. Because when I saw that they banned Hogshead, which I brought that up to somebody and they were like, how can they do that? How can they ban him? And I'm like, because this is their city. This is their town.
Yeah. He's banned from the Indianapolis Liberation Center.
Yeah, he is.
Better not.
Do not show up.
Yeah. Unless we invite you.
Unless we invite you. But I can only think of a few opportunities why we would do that.
Yeah.
None of which I'll say here. But yeah, man. Okay. Wow. All right, Indianapolis. All right, Naptown. All right, so we will be right back, and you'll be hearing from Lucas Lee.
Welcome back to Naptown People's Radio. I'm honored to be joined by Lucas Lee of About Face, an organization of active duty and veterans against war, as well as a volunteer organizer with the Indianapolis Liberation Center. Welcome to the show, Lucas.
Hey, Derek. Thanks for having me.
So you're here today to speak about an upcoming campaign to not only resist, but prevent Trump or Braun from deploying National Guards people to repress our fellow Hoosiers. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
So, before we get into that, could you tell us a little bit about Face and how you got involved and what the mission is?
So, About Face, the full name is About Face Veterans Against the War. This is not a new organization. This is an organization that was previously known as Iraqi Veterans Against the War. So we are post 9/11 veterans of active duty military that are explicitly anti-fascist and anti-imperialist. Because the Iraqi veteran against the war movement kind of died down around the Obama era, it kind of lost a lot of its momentum. But now more than ever, with the Trump presidency and the attack of the right wing upon our communities, it became very imperative that we as veterans use our voice and our experiences and our drive to fight against fascism and imperialism. We are extremely dedicated to not only preventing fascist attacks here, but around the globe.
Yeah, cool. That's great. And something that I think, doesn't get enough attention on purpose, right? But it means a lot to the people who are, fighting to defend their homelands all across the world. And what is the, I know that the National Guard, right? You were at the Camp Atterbury protests organized, and you've been at many of the protests and been, deeply involved in the struggle, over the last months and years, and organizing amongst your, there was recently an About Face conference in Martinsville, Indiana, of all places, I believe, right?
That is correct.
Yeah, and so people came from all over, right? So it's not just a regional grouping; it's a national grouping.
Yes, it is.
Great. And so what is this campaign that we're going to be launching soon?
It is called the Right to Refuse campaign, and it is all about really stressing to the people out in the National Guard today that they have a choice and they do not have to follow these orders. So under, basically UCMJ, which is the military law, you are bound. It is literally your duty, if you're in the military, that you do not follow a single illegal order. That is one of the guarantees you have. If you get an illegal order, you can refuse it. So this campaign is really about advertising and reaching to these people that are in the National Guard right now and telling them you do have a say in the matter. You do not have to follow these orders. The U.S. military is disproportionately represented by marginalized communities that are currently under attack by these anti-immigrant racist campaigns by Trump and Braun. So this campaign is really about reaching out to them. A lot of these people that are members of these communities are getting attacked and be like, no, you can do something about it. And as a member of the military, you're being ordered to carry out this violence. So, that means that you also have the choice to say no and to stop it at the source.
Yeah. So in other words, we're calling on all, National Guards people to stand with their immigrant neighbors instead of the illegal orders and unconstitutional orders of Trump and Braun if they come down.
Absolutely. National Guard, you serve where you live, you serve to protect your community members, and you have more in common and more shared interests with these community members that are currently being attacked than you do with the elites that are ordering these deplorable and illegal attacks.
Yeah. And, most of the public has heard probably that, the reason that there are these deployments is because there's like just outrageous crime. And like, you walk out your door and you're automatically shot. No, I'm exaggerating, but like, do the statistics bear that out from your research?
Not at all. Actually, since the 1990s, violent crime has drastically and consistently dropped in the United States, especially after COVID. There was a significant drop in violent crimes. So specifically with Louisville and Chicago, and I'm talking about those cities because Trump and Braun have named them specifically as being, lawless cities with rife with violence. Violent crime, specifically homicides in Chicago, has dropped 20% in the last year. In Louisville, it has dropped 30%. So clearly there is a drop in violent crime. Murder is obviously a awful crime, and that is dropping. So like that doesn't even speak of the other ones that are considered violent crimes. And this is not a change that is coming from the brutal attacks by the right wing in the United States. This is changes that have been happening for years already. So these terror operations are not influencing that drop in violent crime.
Yeah. Yeah, and I believe that Indianapolis's violent homicide rate anyway is also decreased about the same rate as
Yes.
Louisville, 36% or something like that. Yeah, and of course, right. What is the where like I would like to include in that the homicide rate and separate them out, right? But the homicide rates of the IMPD and the ICE agents, right, and the federal government, because they're the ones who are the real danger to our streets, I think. And basically, it seems like the choice, for the guardsmen is like, do you want to, be a murderer, or do you want to protect people from murder?
And they do have a choice. They can stand up against this. And it is, don't get me wrong, it's a tough choice to make, because when I was in the military, there's a top-down structure of officers, and officers oversee you as enlisted. And as an enlisted, you have very little power, and there's a lot of threat against you if you do not follow that power structure. So there's almost every incentive apparently to them on the surface for them to follow orders and to not resist them, because they'll throw the book at you if you do refuse it. But that choice is there for you as an enlisted. You don't have to follow this. These are illegal orders.
And can you speak more about that? I mean, like how, obviously, if I'm one person listening to this and I'm like, oh, it's illegal, I don't know if I can risk it, right? What am I risking? But it's not just one person, right? It's a group that you're assembling. And About Face, I believe, has resources and, like manpower to fight for you.
Yes. So are you familiar with I think it's the National Lawyers Guild?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. They have a military wing. And About Face has been working with their military wing to produce materials staying to these soldiers like, no, you do have rights, you do have protections. A lot of like outreach materials that we have been assembling. And like, I think the main part which we try to do in About Face to instill confidence is we try to reach out to these National Guardsmen and be like, we were in the military too. These are not people that have not had the same experiences telling you to do something at great risk. Like, we are people that at some point in our life, we have made the step to realize, the U.S. military's goal and actions are not what they seem to be, and they do not serve, a beneficial societal purpose. So we're reaching out to them basically as like elders and people that have gone through the similar experiences and be like, yes, you can do this. And we're not just asking you to do it so we can benefit from it, but we're here to stand with you too, because we have just as much skin in the game as you do. And we're going to stand with you if you do choose to do this, because we know it's a tough decision, but it's something that we all need to do together.
Yeah. And I mean, speak more about that. Why do we need to do it together, and why do we need to do it together now?
We are standing at a time in history where, I don't know, in the last 20 years, there's been significant anti-war movements, especially against Iraq and Afghanistan and, Syria. But we're standing at a time where the forces that be, or the U.S. military, which was previously directed outwards, an imperialist sense that is very awful, is being turned inwards to our own people because of a crisis of capitalism. And this is something that we cannot fight alone. Isolated incidents of resistance are good, but they're isolated, and isolation makes it so that it can be fought against. But together, if we have whole units refusing to take orders, whole battalions, this is significant hampering of operational capacity of these units. And it's not like an isolated incident, might make a statement, but like whole units saying they will not follow orders will make it so that these orders cannot be carried out. So it will literally prevent people from being brutalized by the government if we just say no collectively.
Yeah. And also protect you in the future, right?
Yes.
For actually staying true to the oath that you take as a, military person.
Yeah, absolutely. Like when I joined the military, I didn't join the military, thinking and raising my right hand and like, oh, I'm going to hurt American people, hurting people in general. But it's like, you take an oath to defend the Constitution, yes, but that Constitution also has things within it that are meant to protect people within the United States, all people within the United States. It doesn't matter the citizen status. Like, you undertake a duty when you take that oath to protect people and to defend people, not to enact violence upon them.
Yeah. And, I think that the other thing, too, that's worth mentioning is that there's historical precedent for this, including recently, right? So in During the 2014 Ferguson uprisings in Missouri, a group that we had called March Forward launched an open call to the National Guard to refuse to repress protests and said, sign on to this petition and stand with the protesters, right? Don't stand with the oppressors. And it went viral within the armed forces, and over 500 GIs and recently discharged veterans, including dozens in the Missouri National Guard, signed on to the call. And this consisted mostly of black GIs, but was joined by a multinational swath of service members, who supported the Black Lives Matter movement. So a refusal to engage with the rank and file today would allow us to miss these opportunities, right? And so we must take advantage of them because they are uniquely, strategically situated, right? This alone can do more than, and this is not to downplay the importance of, rapid response and all of these other sort of, networks of collaboration. But it's like the old saying, what if they gave a war and nobody came?
There's an aspect of it too, where it's like, we know that asking the cops or Homeland Security to stop doing this, they're not going to listen to us. They're going to keep doing it because that's what cops and Homeland Security does. But the military is in a unique position where, the conditions are already pretty poor when you join the military. You're not treated well in the military. So you already have like that sense of being frustrated with the system. You join for reasons that are not happy. You don't have a happy life and say, I'm going to enlist the United States military. You usually join because you're in impoverished situations. So you already have that sense of the system screwing you over. So the reason why we engage with GIs and people in the military is because they're in a position where they're also being manipulated by the system in a way that doesn't necessarily benefit them in the way it does for cops or Homeland Security or those ideological true believers in Trump's and Braun's system. So they are more likely to be swayed by our messaging because we're reaching them as people. We're not treating them as, boots that are just going to carry out whatever order is given to them. They are people, and we should engage them as people.
And, not to take this too far, but of course, I think back to the Vietnam War, or the U.S. war against Vietnam, and about, there's this myth that we get that when, the veterans returned home, they were spat on and just, disparaged and everything. And that nothing could be further from the truth. Right. And so I'm just looking at this and by 1971, it was estimated that half of all enlisted troops in the U.S. military had defected to the GI resistance movement. Half of the imperialist war machines was at a standstill, which is no small development. And obviously the Vietnamese are the ones who, won the war, but without that support, and it made sense to do that. There were, I think, so many fraggings or killings of unpopular officers because they were going on these things called platoons. And there's a movie about it, which is basically okay, we don't know where the Vietnamese are because this isn't our land. So you 12, you go walk that way. And when they start shooting at you, call us. And many reasonable people were like, well, why don't we just kill you instead and save our own lives,
Yeah, absolutely.
And, many of them went on to support the Vietnamese resistance to drop out in various ways. And I think at one point in time, there was one fragging per division per week or something like that. It's really quite astounding. And so we're here in the U.S., but this is even before there's been a deployment. So it seems like you're actually saying to Governor Braun, don't even try us because we're already building against it and we're not going to carry out these orders.
Yeah, absolutely. We're not just going to let it pass. So you might as well not even try because there's going to be stiff resistance. And I don't think you're prepared to encounter resistance because I honestly think a right-wing government doesn't know how to react to veterans that are against what they say because, veterans are usually their darlings and, they're people that they can hold up as trophies. Look how well we take care of these veterans. Mind you, veterans are disproportionately homeless in this state. They don't really care. They're just, they're the tokens to be used for the right wing whenever they want sympathy. So that's why we're preemptively getting out in front of this because we don't want this to happen and we will not let it happen. And we want to stop it and stomp it into the ground even before it comes a thought.
That's great. And because without you doing that, there's nobody else to present the counter narrative. The mainstream media, they, kind of try to scare us but they only deliver that side. And maybe they'll cite some crime statistics, but they won't ever reveal the real reason why this is taking place, right? Which is that, like, they are preparing for the social unrest and instability that accompanies this phase of capitalism, where they're gutting social services, SNAP, et cetera, and people are inevitably going to rise up, right? And so, this is important because it's showing rank and file soldiers and veterans, right, that, like, you have more in common with the SNAP recipient. You might be one yourself. You probably are yourself, right? Than you do with these people who are giving these orders. And so we need to expose their lies because nobody else is.
Yeah, whenever a historical moment presents itself to you, you have to be there to meet it because nobody else is going to do it for you.
Yeah.
And that's what, like, about face, there's something in about face that we talked about called, like, protagonism. Like, if you want change, you have to be the change. Nobody else is going to save you. There's no savior just out there waiting to step in. Like, you have to do the intervening.
Yeah, well, that's great. I'm really inspired by this. I think it's really bold. And are there any, I know that you're working on a pamphlet that will be issued soon, and perhaps a press conference or something. Is that true in the works?
Yes, that is in the works.
All right, great. Well, yeah, unless there's anything else, Lucas, it's been tremendous having you on the show. Thank you for your work. Thank you to About Face for your work. And we look forward to building with you and keeping our listeners updated on your really important and unprecedented project in Indiana.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
All right. All right. And after a short break, we will be right back.
Is that we responded. Where there is repression, there will be resistance.
And welcome back to Naptown People's Radio. So, Danny, who gets a Circle City shout out this week?
All right, so today's Circle City shout out goes to the indie gay market. So if you haven't heard, the indie gay market made history in Indianapolis as its first all LGBTQ plus market on July 31st, 2021. So the indie gay market uplifts LGBTQ plus artists, makers, small business owners by providing equitable artist-led vendor big gay markets in Indianapolis. So this is through inclusive events, strategic partnerships, and year-round advocacy. They're working to create economic opportunities, foster community engagement, and celebrate queer identity, right? By uniting art, commerce, and activism, Indie Gay Market empowers queer entrepreneurs and strengthens, our community, right? So Big Gay Market in Indianapolis started as an event series led by LGBTQ plus artist Megan Curran. And the inaugural event that happened, like I said, July 31st, 2021, featured 57 queer vendors offering art, crafts, handmade goods, things like that. And the success of this event led to additional markets in 2021 and 2022, establishing the need for a space where queer artists can come together to share their work with the community. So in August 2022, Curran handed over the curation of the event to LGBTQ plus artist Hannah Hadley. After becoming the lead organizer, she rebranded the market as Indie Gay Market to reflect its expanding mission and their alignment with Indie Pride. So they work with Indie Pride quite a bit. And also to differentiate from other big gay markets appearing in other states across the U.S. So through community networking, Hadley has formed a queer 11-member team now, which is amazing, super dope. So community engagement has remained central to Indie Gay Market's mission, with efforts led by Hadley and community partner coordinator Winnie Maxwell. The market regularly invites advocacy groups, nonprofits, and grassroots initiatives to participate in events, offering educational resources, social services, and support to attendees. That's actually how the Indie Liberation Center became a partner. So here at the center, we're always excited to join the market at one of their pop-up events, and we're super grateful for this partnership. One of the things I always enjoy when I'm attending the market is the joy it evokes in the attendees and those who are volunteering. In a time where we often look at the news and folks feel like, bleak or downtrodden, events such as the Indie Big Gay Market feel essential. You know, joy can be revolutionary. Community is revolutionary. And I'm very grateful to all of those at the Indie Gay Market who continue to hold space for events like this when we are all in need of it. Honestly, someone at Indie Gay Market probably could have started the Love Day. Like, that would have made more sense.
True. Yeah.
That would have made way
Definitely
more sense.
should have.
Yeah. So shout out to Indie Gay Market.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more because political movement building, it requires time. It requires community, you know, like building organizations that can last, withstand the pressure of the state. We have to earn trust, you know, we have to trust one another. And these fairs that they put on where they, you know, allow us to, you know, sell our wares, raise funds, and just build with other and get to know new people, create new networks is exactly what is necessary. So as you're always saying, reminding our listeners, you know, there's many different ways that activism looks like, organizing looks like for different people. Excellent. So, you know, I really have one call that I want to put out there before we wrap up, and that is to start ringing up the phones until November 4th for Kofi Ajabu. He's got a clemency hearing scheduled for November 5th. So until then, we're encouraging all of our supporters and members to be in full swing, showing how strong our support is for this innocent man. If you go to IndianLiberationCenter.org, you'll find more information as well as a sample script and email. So that's it for this episode of Naptown People's Radio. If you found today's discussion useful, pass it on, leave a comment, and listen for the next episode to drop. You can email us at producer@naptownpeoplesradio.com. The road ahead is long, but we walk it together. Study with your comrades, build with your community, and always remember, theory without action is paralysis, but action without theory is chaos. Once again, I'm your host, Derek Ford, with my comrade and co-host,
Danny Abdullah.
Stay dangerous, stay disciplined, and stay in the struggle.
We trying to create a movement. We got a chance to do something in Indiana that brothers like myself been talking about for the last 40 years. When I first became political and we was organized behind the walls in the 80s and 90s, some of the stuff that we doing now with the different programs and the different institutions that we have and things like the Indie Center is things that we used to talk about and dream about doing. And now we doing them. See what I'm saying? We doing it. And we got to keep that momentum going. And it's also generation. So as the next generation come up, you know what I'm saying, it's on y'all to take it to the next level and take it to the next stage.
Salute.